Okay, so for those that don't have the listening on the phone, so they're jamming the internet. Okay, probably part of a lockdown, but there's various different things that God is using. Like they get sicker in terms of trying to lock people down and force them to sit. Okay, so here's one example. Am I smoking when I'm taking my walk? Am I live streaming when I'm taking my walk? Then it's not because of smoking or privacy. But in their brain matter, they don't have to make sense. It's a containment. Okay. Well, because if their brain had to register something that doesn't make sense, they have to accept their diagnosis of dementia. So I don't typically ask why they're doing things. It's only interesting to me if they explain what they think, why they think they're doing it. I know why they're doing it. I just explained it. It's part of a lockdown. If people have been using YouTube to listen to music, that's what I do. And so that's why the internet's off. Outside of a facility, it's part of a lockdown. So there's internet where I was standing, but they still wouldn't allow it. I went to General's Park where there's clearly internet, and they're blocking it there as well. When I went to the Boston Public Library over the winter, they blocked it there, inside the library. So there was probably a little bit of excitement yesterday where they were led to believe that I might leave and go back to the tower, and then they get constant live streams and material and sex MMs and stuff. So they're a little bit more agitated today. So clearly I haven't live streamed since I got here, and I'm not live streaming within a library. Okay. So it was pointed out to them on the phone because it's a microphone. If they cared about privacy, I wouldn't be in a lockdown facility with his cameras and audio everywhere and having people outside of a shower in the morning trying to hover and talk to me. If they cared about privacy, okay, these people would have a camera inside my vagina if they could. They don't care about privacy. And that they might be on some new direction where they're going to focus on science and medicine. And that explains what they're doing. So, anyways, peace and safety, peace and safety. So, I was wondering if they were afraid of the police. I pointed that out because when the police went by briefly, they stopped jamming the internet here. So I don't know if they can't be just doing it through the library. And they appear to be afraid of the police. So that's good. That's good news to the people in Quincy and the police. Okay. That just happened where they unjammed it when the police drove by and then jammed it again. So God's put it in their head if I stand under this tree, then I'm allowed to live stream. So I started using the Zoe Woody account from the laptop about the trial and the cases and Nuremberg trials. And again, I'm only interested in what they believe is going on and what they think they're doing, um, rather than what I think they're doing. But also pointed out to me, what was it? I know I forgot already. Um, I don't have to explain me in terms of the court and my file from the shelter being faxed to my attorney. I don't have to explain me. They're supposed to explain me. I don't have to explain me at all. So the less that's said, the better, um, based on the text received. Uh, if I had to guess right now, um, I don't know if I believe it, but I'm pondering that the thought process is that they're getting secret directives from the judge and that he is instructing them, directing them, helping them keep me captive in the shelter via threats of going to jail if I don't comply with a stay away order, staying in Quincy, staying in the shelter. I've heard a couple of testimony about from residents. It's because I keep going back and forth, back and forth. Do you mean the walking? Okay. So many of these people have actually been briefed on what's been going on with me since at least November of 2011, if not March of 2012. So I don't get into it with them, but what does that have to do with fleeing a domestic violence situation and having 6 minors? Why was I even in a shelter in Quincy with the certain makeup of the residents? Why was I not sent to a domestic violence shelter? Why was I not given emergency housing? Why don't I get alimony? Why don't I have contact with my children? Why haven't I been placed in housing? Recently, why was I greatly discouraged from applying for public housing when I'm in process with Social Security on disability? That's what you do. I did it in 2016. You apply to all the public housing based on the, you'll get Social Security and you'll be in disabled housing. I was accepted to several towns based on that. And then when the judge denied the Social Security because I couldn't get to the hearing, I was dropped from all the housing lists. So they were also asked about CHAMP. I was told by CHAMP online that I can't get into it without the information that was set up by one of their employees previously, and that they stated to me that's not in the file. Okay, so first it was, aren't you already in CHAMP? And then when I explained, oh, yeah, that's not in your file. How would you know that if you thought I was already in CHAMP? How would you know that information had been in the file or not? Sometimes people just say stuff without thinking, and clearly she's new. It's not like she's going to be legally culpable yet for things that have gone on for, what are we at, 13 years now? 12 years? Okay. In terms of compliance, right. If you're told exactly, I'm going back on the 21st, one of the cases is for dismissal and the other one's set up for compliance, and one of the factors is having this information faxed to my attorney, what's the delay in doing so? In writing, I told either fax the file or write on a sheet of paper. We don't have anything in this woman's file, and just fax that to my attorney. So now we're at Saturday when this was explained on Tuesday, correct? Okay. So there was a message left with the therapist. Did I speak with him too, or just the message? So Monday, I'm planning on calling the secretary at the therapist office and explain it to her. So that's me complying. I'm not responsible for people when they're told that a court is ordering this information, they don't provide it. I would have to not tell them or something. Right. I'd have to not go to my therapist, not be in the shelter, not seek housing, not seek their services. Right. So, in my opinion, I'm not a lawyer or a judge. This is what I think. Right. I don't believe it 100%, but if you were to ask me what I think, and honestly, does it matter what I think as long as I'm complying to the law and I'm not dangerous to myself or others? I'm clearly not punching people in the face. I'm not pulling out knives. I'm not flipping out at train stations. So I'm pretty sure the one that's for dismissal is the actual assault and battery. That would be why the other one is compliance, because it's not actually a criminal. It's sort of, right. If it's not a criminal case, then, right, are you dangerous to others? Are you, right, what are you doing? Are you just like out in the street? Are you a menace to the public? I was already shown later what the file was, which might be more extensive now with the other attorney. This is a different attorney that is much better matchup for me. That the woman that was punched in the face said that she thought I needed mental health help. She did not want me to go to jail. Okay, so I had Devora at Aspire. As soon as I told her about Ron DeSantis and alimony laws, she just basically chit-chatted in the room. I mean, that is therapy, by the way. And I was told I didn't have to report to my probation officer what we were talking about, just I'm there seeking services. So unfortunately, I had to also fire that therapist, which I told my attorney. I have a new therapist already that I'm meeting with at Man at Health on Tuesday. So it's basically missing one session. I would have gone yesterday. So I wanted to have therapy. I'm questioning if anyone can actually give me psychotherapy at this point because, um, as I mentioned with the therapist I had, he's an intern. I read the paperwork completely when I signed it, so I understand what goes on there in terms of assessing their employees. Um, he had nothing to say that wasn't a little bit strange, talking about the trauma of losing my children and what's happened to me, my childhood trauma. But as soon as I had a fiance, he wanted to start talking. Um, I don't know. I mean, I've been online for since what 2011 on Twitter at least. I started Twitter in 2009, but not in this context until about 2011. Like God, the Bible, politics, what's going on in my life, shelter living, um, deep thoughts by maybe Mary Lagoa. Um, so it's sort of if you use the internet and you're of a certain age group, you don't know anything about me. Yeah, like it sounds weird, like you think that people are looking at you. It's not that. I just question it. I think that the powerhouse statement by Brett, he was taking one of the weeks off. He changed a date with me. Um, we met at a different day that week, and I said, "Oh, are you having a vacation? Do some fun?" And he said, "What would you imagine that I would be doing?" So I found that to be concerning and creepy. Okay, so just the I've been to psychotherapy before. I've met psychiatrists. I don't really imagine you doing anything when I'm not in this office. You're not my thoughts. Sorry. Maybe flipping burgers. I also noticed a change in the office last visit from where we used to meet. So I don't know if they were already planning on dismissing him or it was just a coincidence that coincidences happen. Where the room was different, there was no windows, and I'm trying to remember it now if the chairs were actually closer together because he wasn't sitting at his desk, from my recall. He was sitting in a chair next to me. I'm not sure that's needed. I saw someone named Dr. Zing at South Shore Mental Health for some time, probably around 2016, 2017, and he sat at his desk, and I sat in a chair. He didn't sit next to me in a chair, so um, that's that. Uh, Obviously, Brian Buchanan is a part of my life, but I sought out therapy to deal with my trauma and my PTSD. I don't really need, per se, I'm open to couples therapy with someone that specializes in couples, separate from my own private psychotherapy. So there's been things that Brian and I have spoken with that I've never uttered to any person in my life. So it's not that I would only seek out him. It's just that it was a factor in me deciding to change my therapist. Um, I gave it the college try as to why I would keep seeing him after the weird statements. It's sort of like when you're that flowy at the mouth with your trauma and things. I guess I felt I didn't want to change again. I really don't like doing that. So. Um, Previously, this isn't current today. I had requested a change in my caseworker because of inconsistency in statements. And it seemed her attitude about Brian, which I discussed with her and her superior. And I was told by her superior that you cannot change your caseworker unless there's a conflict you can't resolve. And I text that to the caseworker. So all you can say is, I feel this can be resolved with the understanding, because usually couples have the same caseworker because you're working on housing, not you're a therapist. Okay, he's going to have a therapist. I'm going to have a therapist. I'm not sure that's the business of people that are running a place called Yawkey Housing Resource Center. Okay, and your housing specialist or your case managers, your case workers for housing, correct? And then if we have issues with the shelter, okay. I'm definitely grateful she got me a bed pretty quickly. I am grateful for that. They can provide T passes when you're allowed to ride the MBTA, especially if you have a very small income and you need to get to your therapist. She has provided rides from the court and to the court. I'm very appreciative of that. But sometimes at first you are like, I'm so open to discussing myself that yeah, I'm a little bit tired of being guarded, I guess. And then you go, okay, this is getting actually a little bit too. There was a misunderstanding perhaps about the nature of our relationship and input that I needed back. I went over this with Tom Kent. Okay. I'm an adult woman. I'm 53 years old. I was trying to get a marital divorce. I fled Florida for my life to another domestic, which is not existing anymore. And I was told to leave. Again, my safety was in jeopardy. From that house in Dedham. And I ended up at your shelter in March of 2012. I smoked tobacco cigarettes at the time. I had 2 years sobriety from alcohol. I'm an alcoholic, and I have no history of drug use. I don't smoke pot. I don't take psychiatric medication. I don't take other people's psychiatric medication. I don't take herbs. I don't take ginseng. I won't even drink an energy drink. I don't drink Monsters. I don't drink Red Bull. What else is it? I don't use heroin. I'm not a prostitute. I didn't have a criminal record at the time, and I had 6 minors. So in terms of why I personally come back here now, because it's gone on so long, I don't even have minors anymore. And this is the shelter that I'm familiar with. And I actually have friends here, whereas other places I don't. When you're in a shelter, I really prefer to be around people I know and in a city I know. So whether or not I have to live in Quincy, that's up to the housing authorities in terms of what's going to happen. I spoke with Brian about if I get my Social Security, I don't know if he wants to apply for Social Security. Okay. I'm open to helping him do that if he wants to do that. But if I am approved for Social Security and I'm approved for disabled housing, he's willing to live in public housing as a couple. He's not turning down housing. So he's in a detox that he's getting out soon. And we applied for a marriage license, and we have an appointment at Quincy City Hall on August 9th to be married. So, right, like when a couple applies for a marriage license, I'm not sure that they need a caseworker at the shelter to separate them. Okay, I'm not really getting that in terms of what he's telling me about the staff of where he is. He's allowed to call me at least once daily. I have a number there. I can talk to one of his workers there. I already spoke with her once. Right, they're not really trying to block me from, they're not allowed to have visitors. So I wouldn't even request that. I'm grateful that he's allowed to call me. So I think it's been helpful. I don't know if they read Facebook. I wouldn't be angry if they did. The only time I sort of get angry about that, because I have the ability to lock it up or keep it public, is if they did and then talked to me and pretended they didn't, I guess. But I mean, legally, they maybe aren't supposed to be doing it. I explained this last summer when I was disappointed with Faulkner Hospital. Okay, so things that are important to his recovery. Right. So I feel that he tells me things maybe that he doesn't tell other people, but that might be grandiose. Maybe he does. So I think there's a reason he calls me and tells me things. So the fire department is across the street. Someone told me they were closing that college. Is that where the college is? You would think I would know what's across the street when I've been coming out here this long. I'm like standing here holding 2 bags because it's dirt here, which is not helping my back. But Ugh. Me physically, we're having another round of sinus issues, and I've been smoking tobacco. So when I leave the building in the morning, yeah. If I'm standing under a certain type of tree, I noticed it yesterday, I'll get that tickle in my throat and start coughing. So how much of that can be cured easily by quitting tobacco, which I plan to do. Uh, some of it, I think it's made worse when you smoke, but as soon as you go into that building. So I don't know if there's a person again that needs to see the doctor. Some people have reoccurrent infections. It doesn't make you a bad person. And then people with the higher immunity don't get the same level of illness. We can fight it off. There's obviously a lot of pollen, a lot of pollution. In my opinion, a lot of radiation. So at this point, with the sun the way it is, I don't know if we need to debate thermonuclear weapons in terms of my sanity because the sun creates radiation. Am I wrong? Okay. So, right. If people are getting mad sunburns and achy bones, I would assume the sun is stronger, more radiation. So, thinner atmosphere, whatever it is, we don't have to agree upon that. So, that's about it. No major things. Nope. See if something pops into my head. The typical things, it obviously no one should be homeless, not wanting certain people on the street, um, reporting literal verbal abuse even in front of staff, and then so she is coming back into the shelter. That doesn't have something, her personally, that doesn't have something to do with really kind of not being happy about Brian and I being together. Okay, so things like that. They, I see it all the time. I've been coming here a long time. And I don't want them to get mad at me, but I've seen a couple screaming in the streets at each other, and they use drugs daily, and they're not legally married. They have the same caseworker, and they were given a 3-bedroom house. So, right. That may have something to do with advocacy. There's some still sort of insanity about people of veterans. I'm sorry, all due respect. Had a family member in active military. So I have a mother that's a disabled veteran, and she was in the military for about 8 months because she has an underlying mental health condition, and now she has dementia. She flies the red and blue herself. Uh, please. I don't know where this is coming from, that their rights supersede U.S. citizens, private U.S. citizens. It's protect and defend the United States of America, of which I'm part of. I'm a born United States citizen. I was born at Newton Wellesley Hospital, not Newton Wellesley Hospital, Beth Israel Hospital in Boston on May 29th of 1971. So you're supposed to protect and defend me. Okay? I'm sure you're not supposed to be using drugs every day in the U.S. military. Okay? I'm sure, I mean, when's the last time he did, what's that thing called? What do you call it? Candace's? When's the last time that dude did that? I was told by Barbara Kent that her son had to stop talking to her because he couldn't stand it anymore, about she's a veteran. It's a good system because right now Social Security is failing many people, as are the system that was set up for the mentally ill. Okay, I'm not against that system. Now, if you're going to have a system, you have to